September 3, 2009, I told my husband, I said, we need to go to the hospital. And so we went in and they said, you've got pneumonia in one of your lungs. And they gave me some antibiotics and said, go home, and if it gets worse, come back. 4 days later, it was really bad. They said, you've got pneumonia in both your lungs now. We're going to ambulance you from this little hospital to the bigger one that's downtown. And that kind of scared my husband. And when we got there, after he got there, he thought they were going to take me to labor and delivery. And they ended up taking me to the ICU. They put me in the ICU on September 7, and I remember being hooked up to lots of telemetry and then putting the mask on my face, and I don't remember anything after that. I was in the hospital for 3 days still, from September 7 till September 10. The reason I remember that date so well is that was my 28th birthday. So on my 28th birthday, they intubated me, put a tube down my throat so I could breathe, and put me in a medically induced coma, and I don't remember anything for 5.5 weeks. I went in there, I was 25.5 weeks pregnant when I got there. At 27 weeks, they could tell that I was not doing well. And they said, well, her lungs are getting rigid, we don't know what else to do, it looks like she might die. And then they started asking questions like, do you want us to save the baby or her if things go bad? And it was hard. My sats started to go down, and my husband said, he said, I thought I was watching my wife die. And my mother sent out this just mass text message to all these people that had been keeping up with me. We had people in literally every continent in the world praying for us. She sent out this thing to everybody, say, pray now, pray hard. She didn't even say why. And then they started to climb, and they got better than they'd been. And they thought that was really strange. During my illness, I'd been really, really swollen from all the extra fluids that were in my body, and I had water seeping through my skin because I was uncomfortable at one point. They turned me and they said the bed was all wet, and they thought, oh no, she's leaking fluids again. And upon further inspection, they realized that my water had broken, and when they lifted up the sheet, they realized that my son was already making his appearance. And he was completely black and blue, and they don't know how long he'd been there. 28 weeks, they'd been trying to get me to 28 weeks because that's when the baby's the most viable outside the womb. At 28 weeks to the day, my aunt, she came to visit, and the week before she had been there when I almost died, and decided to stay a little longer. And she was out shopping, kind of decompressing from everything that was going on, and she got this just really strong feeling that she needed to go back to the hospital. So she went back, and my aunt happens to be a nurse, and she'd had some labor and delivery experience, and when she looked around the room and realized that nobody was going for the baby, she grabbed gloves and she got him out. And she said he was on her hand, his bottom was here and his head was there, and she said he was just black and blue, and she was sure he was dead. And she turned him over to rub his back to see if maybe he would breathe, and she heard him cry just a little bit, and got really excited, and she started to rub him more. And right around that time, a respiratory therapist came walking in. She says, who are you? And she says, I'm her aunt, please help me. But what was amazing was, because a week before I'd almost died, they had the isolette that you have for little babies. They had all the little tiny suction things, the little tiny pins, all the things that you would need for a preemie baby to be born were in the room. And they would not have been there had they not planned on an emergency C-section. However, I still didn't wake up for a long time. I didn't get to actually meet him until he was 12 days old. God takes care of things before we ask for them. He knew we'd need the isolate. He knew we'd need all that stuff in there for Reed, and it was there. He knew my aunt needed to be there. He knew that we needed to live in Atlanta. We had wanted to be in a different place, and God didn't make that happen. But when we were in Atlanta, we were in the huge hospital, and had we not been in that hospital, we wouldn't have had a world-class ICU and a NICU in the same place, in the same building, so I could go visit him during the day. I think we probably would be both dead if we were living where we wanted to be. We were worried because we didn't know how long he was without oxygen. We have no idea how long he was there. But, you know, the child is 9 years old. He is normal. Every time I go to the doctor, I expect them to tell me something is wrong with him. And every time we come back and they say, no, he's fine, he's developmentally ahead, everything's fine. And I'm just praising God that he is taking care of him and that he's okay. My name is Niki and I am the secretary at Learning Tree Elementary School.